What makes most women start a business? Is it passion, money, or freedom? Welcome to the Female Founders, the podcast that takes you behind the scene with women who are founders and CEOs to help you start and scale a successful business of your own. I am your host, Nagilia de Ravin. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Female Founders. My guest today is Morgan Massie. She is a leadership expert, best-selling author, TEDx speaker, and business owner. She helps leaders and entrepreneurs grow, connect, and succeed. Good morning, Morgan. Thank you so much for giving me the chance to have this conversation with you and also to get to know you a little bit more when it's come to leadership, because that is something you are, how would I say that, the expert of it. So your journey in leadership and entrepreneurship is very inspiring, I have to say. So what first sparked your passion for leadership development and coaching?
Yeah, so I've been in talent development, leadership development for over 20 years now.
Wow.
And I guess it all started when I had some not so great leaders and managers earlier on in my career after I got some of my first full paying jobs outside of college, and how, not belittled, but how I felt there was always a ceiling above me and I felt like I wasn't really leveraged based off of what I felt like I had to offer, my strengths and my talents. And so early in those earlier days, I kind of made a vow to myself to, if I ever had the opportunity to be a leader or to do this type of work, that I wanted to be the type of leader for others that I didn't receive myself. Because once I did receive the leadership that enabled me to grow and develop and lean into my strengths, I mean, my career just skyrocketed from there. And I really do feel like, there are things that leaders do that are good, and there are things that leaders do that can really hinder their employees and really the organization's success. And sometimes it takes like a self-awareness in that leader to develop those capabilities within the leader so that they can help themselves and their leaders and their teams be successful and resilient into the future.
So pretty much at the beginning, you were just working for other companies that were just kind of, you have people on top of you, of course, that leading you. But when you say that at the beginning, it seems like you didn't have good leaders, but eventually you did met a few probably that was good, that was able to support you. Is that the reason why you decided to kind of go in a path where you can actually go help them? The one that you feel like that can use the help?
Yes. Yeah. So I remember some leaders that I had earlier on in my career. I remember one in specifics that I tell this story a little bit when I teach some of my leadership programs. And she had a really lovely corner office and a circular table. I think it was made out of maple or some really nice polished wood. And then she had her computer desk in the corner. And when we would have our one-on-one, she would call me in and she would take her laptop and her notepad and move from her desk in the corner to her big circular wood table. And, we'd start going down the list of what we had to talk about together. But every single time she would put her laptop between us. And so even though she was physically there in the room with me, I could hear the little pings going off for emails coming in and people messaging her, and her eyes are always darting from me to the computer. And I really didn't get the sense or the feeling that she was present with me. And so as a result of that, like, what did I do over time? I stopped telling her when I was having problems because I knew she wasn't listening anyway, right? Until one day, I figured, well, if we're noticing that something's not changing and that, we're being faced with resistance, we either need to call attention to it or we need to just accept the fact that it's not going to change. So I wanted to call attention to it. So I was hoping really hoping that she would have a sense of humor about this. So one of the upcoming one-on-ones that we had, I brought my laptop in with me, which I never did.
Ooh.
I left my
I love where this is going.
right? Yeah. I'm like, well, if you're going to do it, I'm going to do it too. And so I put my laptop up. I left my notebook back on my desk, in my cubicle. And she's like, oh, you're going to take notes on your laptop today. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. Turn my volume up on my laptop. And I just let it do all the things, because you get a million emails a day. And she's like, well, Morgan, that's really distracting. I'm like, yes, it is.
Just like yours.
Right. And so then this light bulb went up on her head. I could just see she had that moment. She's like, oh, let's talk about this. And so then because of that moment, we were able to have more of a heart-to-heart conversation and figure out how to best design these one-on-one interactions so that I felt like I had her attention. She felt that I was doing what I needed to do moving forward, and I felt supported. But you know what? If we didn't have that face-off, who knows where that relationship would have gone. And I would not have
Yes.
continued to feel supported for sure,
But what was that moment that made you said, okay, I'm tired of working for other people, so I'm gonna go ahead and do what I know how to do best on my own.
Yeah. 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 I think it's the saying that I say a lot now. So what we resist will persist. And in this moment, that thing that I was resisting was having a heart-to-heart talk and giving my manager some potentially tough feedback. And I was trying to figure out a way to help her see that I wasn't feeling heard or supported, and hoping that I had read her just by observing her, that she had enough of a sense of humor to go with me with
Yes.
how I was going to be able to deliver feedback to her. Because being a leader doesn't necessarily mean that you're a physical leader of people, leader of others. And that moment, in that day, when I was delivering feedback to my manager, my then manager, I assumed a leadership role to be able to deliver feedback to my boss, right? And leadership in the sense of I took accountability for myself. I prepared myself. I figured out how I was going to approach that situation and navigate that challenge,
Yes.
right? And I think that's what more of our leaders today need to understand, that we have to show up. We have to take accountability for ourselves and for others. We need to develop more self-awareness of what's going on around us and how we need to adjust our approach to really relate and support the people that we lead, coach, and support.
Yes, that's true. But you started Leadership and Training Concierge. I love the name, by the way. And the company has helped so many businesses grow stronger leaders. So, what was your vision when you're starting the company, and how it has evolved over the time?
Yeah. So, Leadership and Training Concierge, before I started LTC, I worked for a consulting firm for a number of years, and I still have strong relationships with them where they kind of showed me the ropes on how to take what I was doing from a talent development, talent strategy standpoint within organizations, leading that training function, to a more consultative standpoint to, help train and develop leaders and teams in different businesses. At the time, I decided that I was going to go back to school and get my PhD after maybe being out of school for 15 years. So really like a life goal that I wanted to do. And I realized that I at first could not work full time with a consulting company and do my PhD. So that fueled creating Leadership and Training Concierge. And the concierge piece of it is that, I know that we can do so much more work and be so much more successful when we develop strategic partnerships than we can doing solo work. So I saw a lot of consultants and coaches that I knew that were solo practitioners, really being starved for money, starved for clients because they're working alone out there. And I said, well, I need to have some money to fuel my way through my PhD. I want to have the freedom to be able to do what I need to do and pick the work that I need to do. So I'm going to see how I might be able to partner with other solo practitioners to do good work with clients in
Yes.
service of developing their leaders and their teams. So that's how it started. But what really took off was those strategic partners grew. And as word kind of carried on throughout networks, so now I have strategic partners that can help me with behavioral assessments or 360s, or specific leadership programs, or like you name it, anything that falls under the umbrella of talent and training development. I now have a pretty solid network where we help each other. And so it
I
kind of
like
really
that.
created its own business model organically.
I like that. There's something you said that I love it so much when you said that network, right? And I think that's where a lot of women suffer, right? Even in leadership position, because they get there, they put themselves into that desk and they call it it. But if you can build that network of different type of people that can help you, you get there a lot faster. And I love how you did that. You didn't just said, I'm going to be a business owner and I'm going to do it all by myself. That's not it. You create a network.
No, and I think that's where I see a lot of not young as an age, but young as in tenured, not as tenured entrepreneurs make those mistakes where building their business, they communicate me versus we. So
Yes.
that mindset change, yeah, you have to get over yourself. You have to lower your ego. There's a little bit of vulnerability there. But how you can develop those partnerships, those mutual partnerships, that's going to help you scale your business, build your business. And for me, when I started Leadership and Training Concierge, yeah, there was a little bit of ego in it. I wanted to make sure that I had the recognition and that I had the reputation
Right.
that I wanted to be built around me. But over time, I realized it's really not about me. It's about
No.
how I can do good work with good people to help them. Going back to earlier in my career, not feeling supported, not feeling seen and heard by my boss behind that desk. How can I help other people show up in those courageous moments and develop themselves and help others? That's what's it about. That's what it is about. And so that's what fuels my business going forward.
So I think one of the things, the fact that you went through it, you know how it feels. Like when you walk to that office, you're trying to have a meeting with your boss, and then your boss is like, yeah, You can hear the typing. It's so fast.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sure you're doing all right. I'm sure that's good. But in reality, you know that person don't really care about
No.
anything you are saying at all.
No. No. And so how do you flip the switch on both sides? As the employee, taking that accountability and realizing what are my strengths. Okay, there's a little bit of humor there. I have that courageousness about me, and I can kind of take my own seat at the table and address this. But on the flip side, if I were in her shoes, what would I want my employee to do? And, to avoid that situation, how can I be more aware of the attention I'm giving or not giving to my employees?
I love that. But
Mhm.
you also write a book, The Five Coaching Conversation, if I remember correctly, and it's become a best-selling
Yes.
for a leadership model. What inspired you to co-create this framework, and how can leaders apply it in their daily work?
Yeah, thank you. It's actually, yeah, right up here, five coaching conversations. Um, so I co-authored that when I was working for the consulting firm before I started learning Leadership and Training Concierge. And it's a model that was essentially, it stemmed from research that we conducted across different leaders in different industries, some more well-known leaders and executive coaches that some might know that might be watching from the United States, called Marshall Goldsmith. He's an author and executive coach.
Yes.
Bruce Bochy, who is the prior manager of the San Francisco Giants. I know he's since retired and moved on. And then just business leaders like you and I across different industries that work within organizations. And These leaders consistently had high scores from their employees saying that, they were very good leaders and were able to lead and lead their teams, their high performing teams consistently. And so we were asking them, well, what are you doing to have such high performing teams? And it all kind of boiled down to they were having these 5 conversations consistently. And they were able, so the 5 coaching conversations is explain. So they're able to explain and be direct when they needed to and give feedback and clarify. Explore. So, which is kind of the opposite of explain. So instead of giving people the answers, we're going to ask questions to see if they can come up with the answers on their own. Encourage is the third one. So what rewards and incentives and, how do you make sure that you're encouraging jobs well done across the team? Empower. So it's more of that intentional delegation. If I see that someone on my team is doing really well and has had multiple successes in one area, and if I have something to delegate, am I just going to delegate that to whoever's going to take it? Or if this person's showing skill and strength, I'm going to delegate it to them because that's going to help them grow. And elevate, which is that almost like a career development conversation. So what is next for you? Are you ready? Am I preparing you enough to take that next step? Even if there's not the budget to promote them in their current role, I'm still going to have those conversations around what are your aspirations and how can I help you now get to where you want to be down the road when and if something like that might be available here or elsewhere, right? So it all kind of boiled down to those 5 conversations. And the more that I teach this, because now it's a global program. We've received an award for the program itself. The book continues to be a bestseller on Amazon. And the more that I deliver this content in either a training or in one-on-one coaching, the more I realize it's not just applicable from leader to employee, but you can consider those 5 coaching conversations if you're a parent or a community leader, really anyone that you have some supervisory over. It can help you have better interactions with them and kind of meet them where they are at.
I like that. I need to read that book.
Yeah.
Probably send you 50,000 questions.
There you go.
But you are also co-founder of Empowered Ventures, which is launching the National Women-Owned Business Directory. What impact do you hope to have on female entrepreneurs with the directory?
This is an exciting new venture. Like, I don't have enough on my plate with still going through my PhD and running Leadership and Training Concierge. But I met 2 ladies here in my local area. So I'm in Reno, Nevada, who were also fueled by helping to support women's success. And we had this idea. One of my co-founders had the initial idea of creating an online business directory for women businesses in the United States. There's already interest to expand into Canada and probably globally here pretty soon. We haven't even launched yet. So we launched March 6th here locally, and then with some plans to launch broader than that on a national basis here pretty soon. And so really we're putting all of our strengths together to see, okay, so how can we launch an online product to enable women who own businesses to get more visibility for their businesses within and outside their community. So directory is pretty self-explanatory. You go on there, you have your business listing. It could be like Yelp or whatever, but we're doing more than just the directory piece. So we're doing what we can to market the directory to people within and outside communities so that your business has more exposure to your potential customers and clients. And for our members themselves, depending on what tier they register for, you have access to leadership webinars and resources and business development resources, and also networking resources to be able to help you grow and expand your strengths, your skill set, and how you operate your business too, and enable you to connect with other women entrepreneurs in your area and beyond. So it's super exciting. And it'll, like I said, it'll be launching here in early March, at least locally, with that plan to launch it nationally very soon thereafter.
So another way, you're taking directory to a whole different level. So it's not just you have your business sitting there and then you're waiting for someone to click on it. You can also learn. You can also grow with one another.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So again, going back to that table where I'm sitting there and my boss is across the table from me. So I want to help people on both sides of the table. So you have the leaders that are running the teams, running the businesses, running the organizations, and what skills do they need to be, in this case, for the business directory, better business owners, better leaders for their teams. But then you also have the people across the table. And in this instance, it's your customers, your patients, your clients, whoever you're interacting with. How can we give them access to what you do? Do they even know what you're doing? And marketing is, especially if you have an online business, and we serve online and brick and mortar businesses, visibility is number one. So what are you already doing to try to increase the visibility through your marketing and your social media? That's all great and wonderful. This is an additional way to kind of put it up there that I'm a woman-owned business. So if you have someone coming into your town, you run a woman-owned bakery, they want to grab a donut, but they just want to make sure that they're supporting a women-owned business.
Yes.
They can go on the directory, free to search for anyone, and know that they need to go to you. And so then you get a new customer.
Absolutely. And you're also a TEDx speaker.
Yes.
Yeah. So you have shared your insight on some of the biggest stages, right? So what message do you hope to pass on to your audience?
Yeah, my TEDx, last I checked, had around just upwards of 65,000 views. And it, I think, was maybe over a month and a half, maybe 2 months ago. So fairly recent, right?
Yes.
And that kind of dovetailed too. I spoke at Columbia University and at Oxford University in England as well. St. Hugh's College, for those that are familiar with Oxford. I know when you say Oxford, it's a bunch of different colleges all in the same area. So St. Hugh's Women's College. And the overall theme for all of them is just being more authentic and leaning into your strengths in your role, and how that's going to help you be more successful throughout your career, and feel more fulfilled with your career versus showing up, doing whatever job you're hired to do, go home, rinse, repeat, that soul sucking cycle that a lot of us just fall
Keep
into.
doing it.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
But like you said earlier, like you didn't have enough on your plate, now you're adding another thing for you to do. So balancing multiple businesses, speaking engagements, author, getting your PhD, and not to mention family life is not a small task. We all have that to handle. So how do you manage your time and energy while staying focused to what matters most to you?
That's a great question. I do like to stay busy, and I wonder if I have it. Yeah. So I think this is my third grade teacher, Miss Forrester, and she wrote this book, and it's all hand typed, and like the typing is all crooked on the page. Like she just did this all from her house. It's I don't know when, I don't even know when this was published, but it was a while ago. Now I needed to look. 1986. Right.
Wow, I wasn't even born yet.
Yeah. Well, I was six or seven. So yeah. So anyway, she published that book, and I told my mom that I wanted to buy a copy of it just to support her. And I never read it because I'm in third grade. I don't care. But I kept it. And years later, I read it. I'm like, oh my gosh. So Miss Forrester was not just a teacher. She was a wife, she was a mother, she was active in her church groups and all this stuff. And I'm like, wow, you can do so much. We can do so much in our lives. We don't have to like limit ourselves to these traditional roles. And so whenever I go on podcasts or occasionally I'll meet someone for coffee, like, wow, Morgan, you are so busy. How do you keep it all in balance? I'm like, I do what I want to do. And so then it doesn't feel overwhelming because it's all aligned with me and what I want to do and where my joy is. So it's fun to do. Yeah,
Yes.
PhD work is hard. Sometimes my job day is difficult. Some days I have a challenge with the client. So it's not all like easy breezy, but it's all stuff that aligns with who I am and what I do. So it's not too much. I can keep it in balance. So just like Ms. Forrester said, like, you just kind of follow your heart. And so then you can, in her case, be a wife, a teacher, a mother, a supportive community person in her church group. And for me, I can be a TEDx speaker and a PhD student and run 2 businesses, about to launch that second, and write multiple books and speak on stages. I can do that because I want to, and be a good mother and a wife and be present for my kids. You make time for what you enjoy.
Absolutely. And you know one thing, all of that sometimes make women hesitate to step into leadership roles or start even their own business because they feel like they already have a lot going on in their own life to take more responsibilities. So what advice would you give to women who are unsure about taking that next step?
Yeah. Well, for women who might be listening who have had more than one child, and I know that's maybe a subset, not everyone is even able to have children, and I respect that. And one of my best friends is that way too. But go with me for a moment. When I had my first child, I thought there's so much love to give that I was afraid of having a second child because I would be afraid that they would be competing for that same amount of love.
Yes.
But when I had my second child, there was just more love to give. It's not like I had to take away love from my first child and split that in half and give it to my second. More love just appeared. And I was able to not divide myself, but just open myself up to be able to give and receive love to both of these children.
Yes.
And that might not be the case for every mother out there, but that was my experience. And so I liken that to taking on new initiatives and to putting yourself out there in different ways. It's not like you will shrink or not have enough room for this leadership position that you're trying to move into, or this new job that you're trying to create, or this new business venture that you're trying to step into. Life will create for you that room
Yes.
and that space for you to blossom if you only just let it. That's helped me find space and time to take on all these new projects. This just knowing that we are so, without getting too woo woo, we are just so expansive that as long as you're aligned to your heart and to your strengths, you absolutely can find the time and the space to be or to move into that place where you want to be.
One thing, listening to you talking for the past 20 plus minutes, I feel like building relationships, strong relationships actually is the heart of your work.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some key ways leaders can create meaningful connections that drive success?
Yeah. Well, networking is always like the top answer there. So, I'm an introvert at heart, and I've had to learn to think of networking in a different way rather than going and shaking hands with people and exchanging business cards. Um, look for folks that have the same interests as you, same skill sets. Sign yourself up for a couple networking groups. For me, I felt most comfortable with women's networking groups, and that worked for me. Maybe there's pickleball that you're interested in, and you can network your way through there and figure out who's in similar industries as you. But I think the key is to just get out there and meet
Yes.
people. And if you see someone you like, ask them on a coffee date and just learn about them. Just come with a couple questions in mind, and what do you do and what makes you tick, and what do you enjoy about your work, and just get curious about the person that you're exchanging that time with,
Yes.
because you never know where that's going to lead. And with me, with networking, it became so much more effective when I stopped trying to sell myself and my business. And I just got curious about how we could collaborate. So what could we do or build together? Because I don't want to be a grungy old car salesman, you know? And it just feels good for me to see when I can get into a place where we can come up with new ideas together. And, oh, you offer this with your business? I offer this. So, I mean, imagine there, I just happened to meet someone that owns a taco bar, and they just opened a restaurant. And taco restaurant and leadership, at first glance, not necessarily a lot of alignment there.
Yeah.
But this happened locally, where we had, two folks in those two different spaces collaborating on how they could support each other, rather than the leadership person saying, you have to buy coaching from me. Say, well, you know what? I'm starting a networking group. You have a restaurant. I could host my networking group at your restaurant, bring you customers. You could give me the space for free every month, and we could see where that relationship goes. And it's been going strong for a while now.
I liked it. So now, how can someone, especially women, how can they reach out to you, and also Leadership and Training Concierge, the company itself?
For sure. Well, they can definitely go to the website, leadershipandtrainingconcierge.com, and there's a form on there where they can reach out to me. You could also find me on LinkedIn, Morgan Massie, via picture of my hair is a lot better done in my picture on LinkedIn. But you're welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn and see what I'm up to. I'm always open to have a little virtual coffee chat if there are other folks in leadership and development and training, or really if you have creative ideas of how we can help support each other. And if you're interested in the Women-Owned Business Directory, definitely find me on LinkedIn. So it's MASSIE, just like it's typed down here. And we'll be having some updates on LinkedIn here soon.
Well, thank you so much, Morgan, for giving me the chance to have this conversation with you, to learn more about you and the work you are doing, but also get to see the passion behind the work, because you don't see that very often. You meet people, you look at the face like, damn, you hate what you do. Why do you do it?
Yeah.
But meeting you, it's not that. There is passion behind it. There is love behind it. You just enjoy what you do. So leadership is your thing, and you can teach it. I feel like you can teach that every day, every night, all the time without thinking. That's just your thing.
Absolutely. I like to say, do what you love in service of those who love what you do.
Absolutely. And thank you so much. I appreciate all you do, and also for supporting other women and partnering with them.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for all that you do as well, and for having me on the podcast today. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Female Founders Podcast. That's it for this week's episode. Be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast app, or connect with us on womel.com so that you don't miss our next episode. See you next time. Bye for now.